Please welcome to another session of IELTS practice. I'm Hafiz, an IELTS tutor for HSAT education, and I will be doing my routine of just covering some IELTS practice questions and discussing them together, right? So this session have this type of sessions have been going on for quite a while, basically about 45 minutes that runs through every day from Monday to Friday around the same time, right? And if you guys need any IELTS instructions step by step on literally all the question type, all the sections, right, please feel free to check out the archive of the live videos, and you will find there's actually quite a handful of tutorials that we've already made in regards to IELTS, right? And most of the tips, tricks, step-by-step approach that I've gone through in these sessions will guarantee you at least a 7, right? And I've also highlighted basically how you can actually achieve much higher than that in all sections. So we have covered all of the sections: listening, speaking, reading, writing. So from this point onwards, it's about exposing you to more different question types, to more different contents, so you guys can be more confident in your preparation for the IELTS test, that you're not surprised at anything, basically, right? Okay, so today we're going to continue with the reading practice again, right? But we're going to cover a different set of questions, of course. Last time we did cover a couple different types of questions. This was also a reading passage that we did, but not with this type of question of yes, no, not given. We did it as well for general training, but not for academics. I want to show you guys step by step on how this is actually done, right? Of course, when I'm explaining, when I'm giving you the instruction, it will feel slow because you need to absorb the step first. You need to kind of see where the steps come from and what kind of things that you need to make sure you understand, etc., etc. All right. So let's get right to it. And at any point in time, whoever is watching, feel free to leave any questions, and I will answer it to my best ability. All right. So let's begin. So we're going to start with the yes no not given question, and I will make a couple of reminders. So number one, right? Always read the instruction. Right? The instruction is usually quite clear, right? And I'll elaborate a little bit in terms of what it means. It, sometimes it's yes, no, not given. Sometimes it's true, false, not given. They're basically the same type of question, right? The same principle applies. So if it's a yes, right, the statement agrees with the claims of the writer. We'll talk a little bit about that, what that means. If it's a no, there's a contradiction, right? If it's not given, it is impossible. So those three use a very specific vocabulary that is inherently quite strong, right? So if the statement agrees, if you agree with someone, right, you're basically word for word. Right? It's like, yeah, I agree with your opinion. Every single word, it's also in the same in my eyes. It, if you contradict with someone, there is a very strong argument that what the other person said is completely wrong, right? Like, and you can prove it. If it's a not given, it says it is impossible. So there's no way of knowing at all, regardless of how frequently you check it. So those are the words, right, that they use here for the criteria of yes, no, not given. This is also exactly the same as true, false, not given. Okay. So now, how do you approach this? All right. Don't forget the second reminder after reading the question is that don't focus on the reading passage. Well, at the very least, don't try to understand the reading passage comprehensively, right? Or in its entirety. I've seen students who try to read the entire passage first and try to understand as much as they can and then switch to the question in the hope that they can naturally answer the question from memory, right? That is just not efficient unless you have a super high quality memory. It's like you remember everything ever since your birth or something like that, right? Which is almost pretty much impossible or close to impossible, right? So the safest approach for you to take is focus first on the question and then just skim and scan what you need from the reading passage. So let's do that right now. We'll jump to question 21. Water use water use per person is higher in the industrial world than it was in ancient Rome, right? Okay, so water use per person is higher in the industrial world than it was in ancient Rome. So it says here per person is higher. So the next step after you have read the question and you don't really need to understand comprehensively the question, right? But basically just um, make sure you read it first and have a general idea of what the statement is saying. After that, you highlight the keywords. Okay, you highlight the keyword. Now, the keyword is usually very specific. So what does that mean, right? If you were to look for that keyword in the reading passage, you will most likely find it almost in the same exact format or paraphrase slightly, right? So it's not something that's very generic that might be seen in literally every paragraph. It will be very focused towards one simple main idea. So here, for example, it says here water use per person. It's not like a general use of water use, or it's not a water use for irrigation, for other purposes, right? Is higher. You're looking for words similar to higher in the industrial world. So one of the main subject mentioned there is regarding the industrial world. So we want to find a paragraph that focuses in the industrial era, right? Then it was in ancient Rome. Now this one, right, is a very specific name. So you may highlight that as well. Now you can see here, right, we almost highlight literally every word in that sentence, but that's completely fine, right? The goal is simply to dissect the words that you are looking for. That's the goal, right? You're not looking for the entire sentence in that format, in that structure. You're dissecting the sentences, right, and pulling apart keywords that will help you identify which paragraph the answer is located in, right? And then a lot of the times, you will not find the answer in the same exact format. So you will not find basically the same exact sentence like this, or even slightly paraphrased. You might find it in two, like summarized in two sentences. Not summarized, actually, written as two sentences, right? Or even like as three sentences. The important thing here is that in that paragraph itself, all the keywords are there. They're very close by. And if you're lucky, all of the keywords and lucky, what I mean by lucky is basically um, more than 50% of the time all the keywords will be literally in the same sentence. If not, 3 out of 4 will be in the same sentence, right? So that's what the goal is in terms of highlighting uh, the main keyword, right? So now, what is the next step? Now you can switch to the reading passage, right? But remember, your mindset, right? Psychologically, you're not trying to understand the paragraphs. You're not. You're trying to find those keywords, just those keywords. You don't have to kind of go like, oh wait, during the industrial era, water is actually very scarce. I remember that from a history class. Nope, that's not gonna help you, right? Even if it does, that's probably just coincidental, okay? Because you are most likely to come across questions and topics that you are definitely not going to be familiar with. Okay, so let's take a look. Right, so we're going to take a look at each paragraph one by one. So paragraph A, right? This is what you need to do now. Of course, this is being done slowly and with practice, right? You will do this a lot. You will be able to do this a lot faster, right? This the average time in order to do this technique. Once you master it, is more or less 30 seconds, right? Maximum 1 minute if you're still trying to adjust, right? Because you're doing is skimming and scanning. So what does that mean? You have to read quite fast and only trigger your mind or your eyes when you notice any of the keywords you're looking for, right? So I'm not gonna read quite fast because I want to show you guys how the keywords are identified and connected with one another. Okay, so the history of human civilization is entwined in the history of the ways we have learned to manipulate water resources. Now, this is just an FYI, right? We do see here water resources, right? And in the question, it does talk about water, right? But remember, the key words or here in the key phrase that we are looking for is the water usage per person, right? So towards people. So if it doesn't mention that, right, do not focus on it. So in this case, keep on going. As towns gradually expanded, water was brought from increasingly remote resources, leading to sophisticated engineering efforts such as dams and aqueducts. At the height of the Roman Empire, okay, so there is a Roman Empire as well here. And remember, there was one word that was connected to that, which was ancient Rome, Roman Empire. That we might take it as almost the same thing. Right? Nine major system with an innovative layout of pipes and well-built sewers supplied the occupants of Rome, right? Okay, so that is people, occupants, people, with as much water per person. We see that there's water per person, as is provided in many parts of the industrial world today. So you can immediately see that all the key words have been found. Well, most of the keywords. One keyword that we have not yet identified. It might have been we might have missed it. It might have been written differently, right? But let's take a closer look. So first is water per person. We got that. It's written exactly like it is, right? Industrial word there, written exactly like it is. Ancient Rome, right? Roman Empire here, and then occupants of Rome. That's like to do with people, right? Supplied as much water per person. Okay, so we found, right, one, two, right, three keywords for question 21 in paragraph A. Now, what is missing? It's this one. Correct? Now, if you take a closer look, literally all the keywords are in the same sentence. It starts here. At the height of the Roman Empire, nine major system with an innovative layout of pipes and well-built sewers supplied with occupants of Rome with as much water per person as is provided in many parts of the industrial world today. Now, so we found all three keywords. If it's a yes, sorry, not all, sorry, we found 3 out of 4 keywords. If it's a yes, right, as I mentioned in the beginning, that means you absolutely agree, right? You will basically go word for word. So what does that mean in keywords aspect? It means you will find all of the 4 keywords that you highlight, usually exactly as it is, right? Or paraphrase slightly, but the meaning does not change at all. In this case, we found 3, but one is missing, right? So we cannot 100% say just yet because we're this is a practice. We cannot say 100% just yet that the answer is a yes because we only found 3. One is missing. Okay, so if it's a no, right, that means one of the keywords that we highlight will have either a completely different essence. It still contains the same type of information, don't forget, right? But it will completely have a different context, right? So if we take a closer look, right, before the water per person keyword, there's the word with as much. So that's like equal. So what was the word that we're missing? It was superlative, right? So higher, lower. So this is like the same type of word, just a different like, well, it's a different word, but it's the same type, right? So equal and higher are completely different, right? So we actually did find the same type, but a different word, right, with a different meaning, right? So in that case, that is a clear contradictory, right? So it contradicts. Clearly it contradicts, right? Because it's in the question it says higher, in the reading passage it says as much, right? Same type of word, but different meaning, or completely different word. But remember, they have the same kind or category. If it's a number, it's a number. If it's a degree, it's a degree. If it's, like a feeling, it's a feeling, but maybe different feelings was mentioned. Now, what does a not given look like? Right? It says it's just impossible. So in a keyword sense, in a keyword sense, don't forget that one of your keywords will be completely missing. You won't even find a similar type of word, right? Even though it has a different meaning or different context, you will not find it, right? Like I said, not given means it is impossible to say. Okay, so let's take a look at the next question and see what it looks what the answer is, right? So for question 21, this is obviously a no, on a not contradictory information. Okay, so question 22, feeding increasing population is possible due primarily to improved irrigation system, right? So again, we're looking for this phrase feeding increasing populations, right? So that's, you need to find a passage where it talks about the population and they're, feeding them. Um, Possible due to my primarily, right? So it's a positive thing, right? It's possible, it happened to improve irrigation system. So we got at least three here, right? You can also dissect primarily, basically saying that's the main thing, right? But those three should be more than enough. Okay, so to improve irrigation system, so we have to make sure that the paragraph clearly talks about the irrigation system. There's a connection with irrigation system and how the population is feeded. So let's take a look at paragraph B. Right? During the Industrial Revolution and population explosion of the 19th and 20th century, the demand for water rose dramatically. Construction, tens of thousands manual engineering projects designed to control floods brought great benefits to hundreds of millions of people. Okay, we have hundreds of millions of people here, right? But does that mean increasing population? Maybe not, right? But again, this is a practice, so I want to show you guys the thought process behind this, right? So that you can continue refining the approach yourself when you practice these questions in your own time. Food production, okay, it does have something to do with food. Food means it has a direct correlation with feeding, obviously, not drinking, has kept pace with soaring population. Okay, we actually notice here that it says increasing, and there's a similar word here, soaring, increasing, soaring, same thing. Soaring is a lot stronger, but essentially they are the same, right? Soaring, increasing the same. Population as well is found here, mainly because, oh, there's the word mainly, primarily, right? Now if you get used to this kind of method, that's what you should start to immediately catch on, right? Once you get used to just dissecting, highlighting, identifying the keywords, once you switch to the reading passage, you're not focused on the context as a whole. You're just focusing on those keywords, and then you start to notice, wait, I remember this word is actually similar with one of the keywords that I highlighted. Right, you have that trigger in your mind, right? Because if you don't have enough vocabulary, you might go, okay, mainly because of the expansion. Like you can easily overlook that mainly is the same thing as primarily. Right? Same thing with soaring. If you don't know that's what that soaring means, increasing, right? That means you still need more vocabulary practice. In which HZ education does provide. So please feel free to check in the link description below if you need any kind of training when it comes to vocabulary, identifying keywords, even reading practices, right? There are lots of courses that you can choose, and they are pretty affordable compared to a lot of institutions, right? And the best part, it's money back guarantee. So if you don't achieve your goal, you are gonna get your money back, no question asked. Check the link in the description below. Continuing, right? So mainly because of the expansion of artificial irrigation system, that one didn't change, right? That one didn't change. So systems, irrigation system, because Irrigation system is a technical term, so it is difficult to change. Okay. Now, again, similar to the previous questions, we actually found most, or if not all, of the keywords that we highlighted. So now let's check whether it is a yes or a no, right? And don't forget, if it's a not given, that means one of your main keywords will be missing. So food production, okay, where is it? Food production, check, right? Feeding, increasing population, soaring population, check, right? Mainly because primarily they're check because of expansion of artificial irrigation system, check. So all of those, they all they're all found in that one sentence with no contradictions, with no words being changed in its essence, right? And no missing keywords. So it is very likely, and it is like 95 or 99 even percent likely that it's a yes, right? All the keywords are found in that question. Okay, so you can carry on doing that, right? And I guarantee you, you will find the answer. And again, I showed the way I showed you guys. It felt slow, right? But when you get used to it and implement it in your mind, I guarantee you, it will take like 30 seconds per question, right? And the worst is just 1 minute. And that's usually because either A, your vocabulary is not sufficient enough. You fail to notice when when a certain keyword has been changed drastically or even slightly. Or two, your reading is not accurate enough, right? You're reading fast, but you're not catching on the information that you need. So you kind of like skips some of the information, well, of course unconsciously, like because you're trying to read very fast. So those two areas are the most crucial when it comes to reading: your ability to skim and scan, so read quite quickly but only focus on the things that you need and not trying to absorb the meaning or the main topic of the entire paragraph, right? And the second one is to make sure that you do have sufficient vocabulary in order to identify and detect whenever there's a paraphrase or a change of synonyms. Okay. All right. Let's do one more question, then we'll move on to a different question type. All right. Sorry. For question 23, modern water systems imitate. So again, we want to talk. We want to find modern water system. Oh, almost like a tongue twister there. Imitate. So that's a keyword, a verb, especially if it's that strong. Imitate, copy, emulate those of the ancient Greeks. So this one is a very specific term, right? So any specific terms, terminology, technical terms, scientific terms, right? Those should be highlighted because a lot of the times they cannot be changed. So it makes it easier for you to detect them. Okay, so we have at least three there: modern water system, imitate, and ancient Greeks Roman. Now the easiest way, of course, the easiest thing to do is of course find the word ancient Greeks and Romans, something along that line. So let's take a look at C. Yet there's a dark side to this picture. Progress, half of the world's population. Water services inferior to those available in the ancient. Oh, okay. Actually found it. We've actually found it in paragraph C, Greeks and Romans, right? And modern system. Half of the world population with water services. Okay, there's water services. Is that similar to modern water system? Yes, you may assume that. So if your vocabulary might still not be at a sufficient level and you're not quite sure, right? As long as it says like water services, this service, water system, that has some sort of similarity. It's not too significantly different. It's not too significantly different. Just highlight it for the time being, right? Remember, we can check the answer later. Right now, you're just doing your best to find all the keywords. As the United Nations reports on access to water, iterated in November 2001, 1 billion like access, clean drinking water, some 2.5 adequate preventable water related diseases kill an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 every day. And the latest evidence suggests falling behind in efforts to solve this problem. Now, we did find some of the keywords, right? We found water service, one. We found ancient Greeks and Romans, two. But we did not find the word imitate, not even close, right? Yet there is a dark. Let's check, double check. This is the way to check whether your answer is correct. despite over half of the population still suffer with water services, right, inferior to those available. Nothing to do with imitation there, not a single word. So you have to be pretty much aware, right, where and not go like available. Does that have to do something with imitation, or in the next sentence here, for example, reiterate? I'm not sure what does reiterate mean. Does that also mean imitation? Right? No, it doesn't. So that's usually the challenge and the focus that you have to make, right? And continuously improve in terms of your ability on identifying vocabulary. So in this case, two keywords have been found, but one of them is completely missing, right? So if I were just to assume that yes, um, the answer is in paragraph C, right? One of them is missing, and if I go by the standards and explanation that I just gave, that is a not given because one of the keywords is completely missing. I did not find anything close or like a similar type. So if you want to say a similar type to the word imitate, maybe copy, change, alter, right? Mimic, something like that. Nothing though, right? So if we go by that standard, it's not given. Now, sometimes you will think, right? I'm sorry, Hafiz, but maybe it's in the next paragraph. Well, feel free to do the same. But usually, right, if you have been exposed enough to these types of questions and have implemented frequently enough this approach, you will basically be confident whenever you find two out of three keywords. Let's say in one question you highlighted just three keywords. If you find two out of three of those keywords, it's highly likely that that is the paragraph you should focus on. Right? If you highlight four keywords and you find three of them, that's in the one paragraph. That's the paragraph you should focus on. But if you highlighted four keywords, but you only found like one or even two, right? And you're sure that all four are keywords, right? And essential keywords, then there might be a chance where you have to check another paragraph, right? What you want to do is find 75% of the keywords, right, to be sure that the answer is there. So here we found two when we're only missing one. So it's highly likely that C is the paragraph we need to focus on for question 23. And with one missing, the answer should be a not given. Okay. All right. Now let's take a look at the different question type. I have a lot of question type here. Okay. So we're gonna try and answer a different reading passage. And this one is multiple choice. So something that we haven't done with the IELTS academic. Like, okay, I'm gonna make that to PD. Yeah, I can't. All right, that's fine then. Hopefully this is still readable. Okay, so when it comes to the multiple choice question, right, it basically works the same way, right? The only difference is that you need to focus on the options, the answer options that you are given. In the previous question type, you're only given one line of questions, right? And you only have to check those. But with this type of multiple choice, you are gonna have to focus on what the question is asking, right? And the answer options that you are given. Again, you do not need to immediately focus on the reading passage. Okay, so in that regards, oh, Chiranjeevi, sorry if I mispronounced that name. Yeah, don't worry. One of the members of our team is gonna try and reach out to you, right? So if you want, you can leave, or you can email again, and we'll check it. And I'll ask one of the team members to check the emails. Thank you so much for pointing that out. All right, on with the lesson first. Okay, so the question here is choose the correct letter A, B, C, or D. Right? You only need to choose one. Sometimes you will be asked to choose two, right? So pay attention to the question. So first question, the book Educating Psyche is mainly concerned with. So here, be careful, right? This is a main topic question, right? It's mainly concerned. Now, if we live in an ideal world, you will find the main topic usually in the first sentence, right? But with IELTS, it's never ideal, right? So you have to check all corners basically and not rely on the common knowledge. Okay, so when it comes to this type of question, right, the next step that you want to do, okay, is first, because this is the main topic, right, you want to focus usually on the first paragraph first and foremost if it's a main topic. Okay, now there are different types of focuses for each question, so I'm going to go through all of them. So this is the main topic, so usually the first paragraph will indicate, but it's not necessarily going to be in the first sentence. If you're lucky, it might be in the first sentence, right? But how do you check? So let's have a quick read at the paragraph. Education Psyche by Bernie Neville is a book which looks at radical new approaches to learning, describing the effects of emotion, imagination, and unconscious on learning. One theory discussed in the book that is proposed by George Lozanos, which focuses on the power of suggestion. Okay, done. Don't read further than that. After that, take a look at some of the options first. Now, if you are used to this method, you can immediately jump to the answer options and then go to the reading passage. But if you're not, I highly recommend you to read the paragraph first. If it's a main topic, again, first paragraph. Right, look at the different answer choices here. Right. So here, the first one says the power of suggestion in learning. So power of suggestion in learning. That's it. For B, a particular technique. Right. Learning based on emotion. Right. Learning based on emotions. The effects of emotion on imagination and unconscious. So basically, that's something that you need to keep doing. Ways of learning, not traditional. So, how do you find the answer? Well, let's take a look at which keywords, right, out of those four are actually highlighted in the first paragraph, right? Education Psyche, right, is a book in which lots of radical new approaches. All right, so let's take a look at the first probably keyword that we notice. So this is not like a keyword in the sense that, oh, I just noticed that one of the words is mentioned here. No, this is like, okay, I feel like this is an important keyword because it's already the part where it starts talking about what the book is about, right? So radical new approaches. Now take a look at the answer choices. Is there any word that indicates radical new approaches? Okay, there are approach, particular technique and approach can have the same meaning, right? Ways of learning, that is also another word for approach, right? And the rest doesn't have that. Okay, continue, right? To learning, describing the effects. Okay, there's the effects of emotion. So we want to see the effects of emotion. Okay, C has the effects of emotion, right? Okay, imagination. All right, is there imagination? Okay, C also has imagination, right? And unconscious. Okay, C also has unconscious. Sorry, on, right, the effects of emotion on the imagination and unconscious on learning. Okay, learning. A has, D has. Okay, one theory discussed in the book that is proposed by George Lozanoff, which focuses on the power of suggestion. All right, now the power of suggestion is also in A. Right. Now, you can see here that all the keywords are actually mentioned in the first paragraph. That's why, right, when it comes to just highlighting the keywords, this is not enough for main idea. So what do you need to do? Right? Yeah, how do I apply what actually, like, what is the next step? Right? Okay, I've highlighted the keywords here, and all of them are there, right? So like, how do I decide which one is the answer? I'm not trying to understand the entire book. Okay, now you can start linking the keywords, right? Linking the keywords that you have actually highlighted. So, for example, here, right? This is talking about education psych by Bernie Vivell, um, which looks at radical new approaches to learning, describing the effects of emotion, imagination, and the unconscious on learning. So, if we kind of just immediately take a good look at that, that's actually the main topic sentence. Like, that's the topic sentence right there, right? Why? Because the next sentence is one theory discussed. So one of the theory discussed in that book is that, right? So basically, the power of suggestion here is not part of the main of the topic sentence. So A is completely wrong, right? This is completely wrong because that's not part of the topic sentence. Now, let's take a look at the rest, right? So the rest are all in the topic sentence, a particular technique for learning based on emotions. Now, the most important thing here is, remember, the concept and principle is more or less the same, right? And that is like, the answer should contain the complete set of the keywords, right? In terms of meaning and connection. So if we kind of apply that, right? So radical new approaches, learning, effects of emotion, imagination, unconscious unlearning. Those, all of those keywords must be connected, right, in one phrase. So we need to like take a look at which one, right, kind of sum up all of those keywords together the best. So for example, let's take a look at a particular technique for learning based on emotion, right? But in the topic sentence there, it says the effects of emotion on learning. So that's a mistake that we did, that I did, right? Just as a practice. So this one is based on emotion. That one is based on learning, right? So B is also incorrect. So that's why we have to make sure that the keywords that we highlight are specifically or explicitly reflected the same way in the reading passage. Right? So let's take a look at C, the effects of emotion on the imagination. Again, same thing. This one is on emotion, this one is on the imagination, but what we're looking for is on learning. So C is also incorrect. Right? Now, if you were to just go by the rules of elimination, you're only left with D. But because this is a practice session, I want you guys to also be able to kind of see why um, D might be the correct answer, right? So here it says ways of learning which are not traditional, right? Now, not traditional is in a sense radical, right? Because radical basically means extreme, right? So it's there as well, right? Ways of learning, so new approaches to learning. So all D covers is this, the first part of that topic sentence, right? Radical new approaches to learning. That is it, right? And the rest of that sentence, as it turns out, are basically subclauses, right? It's subclauses. It gives a little bit of information on what the topic is actually about, right? So that is already contained in the first part of that radical new approaches to learning. That's why D is the correct answer, because it encompasses all of the other keywords that we found. Okay, and that is basically how you make sure um, your answer is correct for a main topic sentence. Okay, now let's do another one just to be sure and be confident with our method. Right. So next is Lozanov. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Theory claims that when we try to remember things, okay, so we need to focus on the Lazanov theory. Okay, theory claims that we try to remember. Okay, so it's focused on memory. Okay, so only focus on that part that's about memory. Unimportant details that are easier to recall. So unimportant details. That's a good keyword to highlight. Easiest to recall. And remember, because we learned that in the previous question, that the keyword has to be explicit and connecting, right? Concentrating hard, produce best result. The most significant facts easily recalled. Peripheral vision is not important. Well, it's not important. So there are two keywords for each options, right? And we need to find the one in the reading passage where those two keywords are explicitly as written in the answer choice, and they both connect directly with one another, similar to the previous questions. Right, so let's take a look at the second paragraph. Large enough instructional technique is based on the evidence. Okay, so that's evidence. Basically the claim, so not important just yet, that the connections made in the brain through unconscious processing, which he calls non-specific mental reactivity, are more durable than those made through conscious sorry, processing. I can't do that. All right. Conscious processing. Okay, let's stop there for a second, right? So be sure that if you are still practicing, you are basically checking continuously, right? Just so that you don't miss any of the answer. All right, let's take a look, right? There is unconscious processing are more durable, so stronger, right? Unconscious processing, so thinking like unconsciously, okay, are more durable, stronger than those made through conscious processing. So it's actually more stronger if you just think without realizing, or if you process something without realizing it or focusing on it, than if you actually focus on it. So let's see if any of the answer choice has that, right? Because if not, then we need to continue. Right? Unimportant details are easiest to recall. Nope, it doesn't say any of those two. Not the keyword is also not found. Concentrating hard produce the best result. That's completely the opposite. So we can actually say B is incorrect because we got the keywords that's actually contradicting B, right? C, the most significant facts are most easily recalled. Nope, we didn't see that. Right? Peripheral vision is not important. We didn't see that as well. So we have eliminated one answer choice so far, right? Because of course we need to make sure that we continue checking until we are sure in that paragraph that we have gone through all of them. Okay, or until at least we have found the two keywords that connect with one another. All right. Besides the laboratory evidence for this, we know from our experience that we often remember, okay, something to do with memory. There we go, right? What we have perceived peripherally, perceived. So you need to make sure that you understand that part. Perceive means how you look at things, right? Peripherally, like so completely, long after we have forgotten. So we often remember what we have kind of seen long after we have forgotten what we set out to learn. So once we remember something, I'm not a psychologist, but is piquing my interest, right? Once we have actually forgot what we are trying to learn. Okay, so let's take a look at the answers again. Unimportant details are the easiest to recall. That it doesn't say that just yet, so we're not gonna cross that answer out. The most significant facts are the most easily recalled. Not no, actually, this one is contradictory, right? Because it says here, right? We start to what do you call it? Remember what we kind of see comprehensively long after we have forgotten what we set out to learn, right? So it's actually not the most significant, right? So there is a very likely chance that C is incorrect because that's contradictory. Peripheral vision is not important. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say peripheral vision. Let's continue. If we think of a book we studied months or years ago, we will find it easier. Okay, this one easier to recall peripheral details, right? The color, binding, typeface, etc., etc. Then the content on which we were concentrating. So it's actually easier to look at the wider content instead of the main content that we're trying to focus on, right? So peripheral vision is not important. It doesn't say that. Unimportant details. Yes, it says that, right? Because here, peripheral details, right? Unimportant details. You need to kind of be aware of that, right? Are the easiest to recall. Is it? Let's check. Yes, find it easier. So A has a direct connection with those two. So it is likely. Okay, so for 27, the answer is D. For 28, the answer is A. It's not my bad. Right? So that's how you basically process the answer. Right? You need to make sure that those two keywords are connected, and if they're contradictory, you can eliminate them. Right? If they are missing, since this is not a no, yes, not given question, you cannot say that they're wrong. Right? You can only say something is wrong when there's a contradictory for this type of questions. That's one of another huge difference with the previous question type. All right, that's my time. Hopefully that helps for anyone who needs this kind of thought process, right? Because this is a very high accuracy way. It's very accurate in checking whether your answers are correct, right? And when it comes to the reading section, it is quite a shame if you don't try to get 45. Sorry, not 40 out of 40, right? Because yeah, that is the only section where you can confidently check your answer. You can check your answer in writing, but not confidently. Probably with reading, you can confidently check your answer. So yeah, there is a very good chance if you do enough practice, you can get 40 out of 59, a band 9. Speaking of which, if you need more guidance on this, please feel free to check out the link in the description below, right? Check out some of the courses. It's self-paced. You go at your own pace. At HZAT Education, there are video trainings, tutorial step-by-steps, thought processes, practice question, tips and tricks, and lots and lots of templates with very detailed instruction on how they are used and how you should apply them. So please check them out. It's very affordable and it's also money back guarantee. So if you don't achieve your goal, money back guarantee, no question asked. All right, that's my time. We're going to continue tomorrow, hopefully with one general training questions. So do tune in if you need that, if you need help with that, and I'll see you at the same time. All right, take care of yourself. Bye bye.